And so it's really unavoidable that there are moments where those
Any zip code and we come on, let's go.
Sa 150? Kasyang sang linggong gamot ng pamilya?
Kasha! Dahil laking tipid kapag Actimate.
Depensa sa allergies ni nanay.
Actipid!
Tulong sa blood sugar ni tatay.
Actipid!
BP maintenance ni lola.
Actipid!
Tulong pampasigla ni kuya.
Actipid!
Isang linggong ginhawa, kasya sa 150.
Dahil sa Actimate, aktiyak na sa quality.
Actipid pa! Punta na sa Generica Drugstore.
Imagine a game. A remake of a beloved property. One that fundamentally misunderstands the original to the point of receiving a mounting wave of backlash. That's nothing special. This isn't a new story. In fact, it has already played out possibly hundreds of times. Out-of-touch executives, fueled by corporate greed, digging up the grave of a nostalgic series for money. But in this case, there's one striking difference. The game I'm covering today isn't even official. Yet it was somehow so controversial that it became one of the most divisive fan projects of its time, a joke in its community. But what happened? From what I remember first seeing it, there wasn't a lot to write home about, and I don't mean that negatively. It's just not the kind of game you'd expect to have backlash. So I started looking deeper. I think I want to do a video on FNAF in real time. I want to do a retrospective, sort of like the Plants vs. Zombies Replanted video. Do you guys want to see the thumbnail for the FNAF in real time video? When I work on that? That's going to be in like 2 months from now probably, but I'm going to show off the thumbnail because I think it's really funny. I'm going to call the video Watching a Game Crash and Burn in Real Time. If I'd known at the time that this deep dive would take several months, would I have still done it?
Down below, I can't seem to get away. Working my bones like a slave each and every day. It's breathing down my neck, smell the sulfur in my sweat. Day after day, just toiling on this chain gang. Down with the devil, down with the devil. Down with the devil, down with the devil.
Five Nights at Freddy's in real time. At first glance, it seems like nothing out of the ordinary. It was just supposed to be a simple project designed to take FNAF 1 and give it a fresh coat of paint, with some new animations. It's innocuous. But then, feature creep kicked in. What started out as a straightforward remake would be burdened by baffling creative decisions, confusing, unnecessary changes, and the inclusion of one of the funniest retcons to any story ever. But even worse, it's a remake that misunderstands the game it's building off of. Let's talk about FNAF. Five Nights at Freddy's is an insanely popular horror game, to the point where I don't feel the need to explain it to you, but I might need to explain why someone would want to remake it. Despite popular opinion, FNAF 1 is not a perfect game. Being made in Click Team by Scott Cawthon and Scott Cawthon alone, it isn't the most graphically advanced. If you look under the camera static, FNAF 1's graphics are very simple. Take away the warping and it's just a collection of images, variations of the rooms with or without different animatronics that are switched out as the characters teleport around the establishment. In-game, this works to great effect. The average player will never even notice how primitive it is because they're too distracted by the atmosphere.
It's amazing how the tension is still there. It's a fantastic horror game. It plays on every one of your paranoid delusions.
Unfortunately though, over the years that would dissipate. Players have completely cracked the code on how FNAF 1 works. Everyone who follows the series knows what a movement opportunity is, and once you start to learn the games on an internal level, that initial horror vanishes. In general, it would also lessen with each subsequent entry. You could argue the novelty wore off after the first game, but things were really never the same when the series began pivoting to the more sci-fi elements that appear today. With it, there would be more variety in terms of gameplay, but also a distinct lack of horror. Fanworks like FNAF VHS would try to steer things in the opposite direction, but over time, that too would lose its impact and fall into its own set of tropes. A potential solution to this problem could come in the form of a remake. A remake would allow people to return to the original game's atmosphere in the most direct way possible, and people who haven't been interested in the newer games can now have a new way to revisit a game they loved. It could also provide a different enough experience for existing FNAF fans to be caught off guard, reintroducing that tension the first game had when it was first released nearly 12 years ago. Another reason someone might take a swing at remaking an indie horror darling is to have another go at its story. The original run of FNAF games weren't planned out from the beginning. There were hints of a narrative forming, but those pieces would only be expanded on with the hindsight of future developments. Take, for example, the phone guy. In the beginning, he had no name, and the only purpose he served was to explain the world and mechanics. But thanks to a book published over 10 years after the original game, we now know that his name is Ralph. Just to fully put it in perspective, when FNAF 1 came out, there was no Vanny, no Henry, no Gregory, no Puppet, no minigames, no books. Hell, William Afton, the main antagonist of the series, wouldn't have his name mentioned in-game until Sister Location. And even then, only his last name is mentioned in the games. His first name, still an exclusive to the books. In concept, a remake would allow the story to be as fleshed out as it deserves. A new first installment would be able to plant seeds to be expanded in all the subsequent games. rather than what actually happened, which was Scott Cawthon adding in things he thought would be cool in every game, even though a lot of the time they wouldn't really make sense for the era the game takes place in. Seriously, why does Sister Location take place at around the same time as FNAF 4? That's ridiculous. These animatronics should not be coming before these animatronics. The last, and in my opinion best reason to recreate the first FNAF game is, like any other reboot, it provides a good opportunity for newcomers to hop on, or for older fans to hop back on. Security Breach kind of did this, but it felt like it was designed primarily for a younger generation of players rather than those who grew up with the series and wanted to revisit it. These are all valid reasons one would want to recreate the first Freddy's. However, no matter how many developers would try their hand at changing things up, this would, more often than not, lead to mixed results. So, you're a game developer, and a fan of the FNAF series. If you're gonna remake the game, where's a good place to start? Probably with something simple. LEGO FNAF was a graphical overhaul designed to take the first FNAF game and fit it into the mold of a LEGO game. Because of its identical gameplay to the original, the developers added the requirement that the player own the original game on Steam, otherwise it wouldn't work. Despite this precaution, the game would be abandoned, and all potential sequels would cease development due to legal threats. Not from Scott Cawthon, but from the other name attached to it. This wouldn't be the first fan game to face copyright issues, and it definitely won't be the last. Five Nights at Freddy's Deluxe Edition is a remake by Mr. Freddy 64. It's an almost exact recreation of the first FNAF game, with a few alterations. There's a VHS filter over the cameras, it fixes some small visual bugs, and hallucinations are a lot more common. Although with that, it's also a lot less polished than the original. The filter was unnecessary, and makes the whole game feel like a low-quality analog horror. The new hallucinations make the Foxy running sound, which is designed to throw you off but still feels pretty annoying. And there's a discrepancy where the camera button is actually deceptively larger than it looks, causing you to accidentally turn off your cameras when trying to go to Cam 2B. FNAF Rewritten was a remake that put in a bit more work. It's a from-the-ground-up remake of FNAF 1 designed to rewrite the story from the beginning, utilizing a different visual style to make the game more realistic, but it's weird. It simultaneously feels more futuristic with its UI, but also more primitive with a diegetic notebook to keep track of the hours. Looking around the office feels over-engineered. In FNAF 1 you could just look left and right and that worked fine. But in Rewritten, your head bobs all over the place. It feels like they tried to fix something that wasn't broken to begin with, and the result is something that feels disorienting to play. It's cool that the office is in a more realistic 3D space now, but it also makes time-sensitive actions like, say, closing the doors when an animatronic is there, way more annoying. Another interesting reimagining is FNAF 1 Remake, a game that is not, in fact, trying to be a remake of FNAF 1, but rather a play on the ransomware style of horror, with characters like Chick and Oxy Pirate riding the fine line between weird bootlegs and twisted nightmares. The game can only be played in windowed mode, because the window itself is designed to move around, keeping with ransomware's original idea of a FNAF game that controls your computer. It makes a lot of really cool, original choices, and while I think that's for the better, the game clearly isn't a remake. It isn't even trying to be one. But the worst thing that could happen with a remake is that it may not be remembered fondly, but rather in infamy. FNAF Plus was a game that sought to re-envision the series from the beginning, to make it scarier than it ever was, with new takes on the characters that were actually pretty unsettling. I remember seeing a few of the teasers when they first came out, and it looked really promising, until Fiznom got harassed until he cancelled the game. Thankfully, some Russian dude saw this cancellation and decided to take it upon himself to step up and make it instead. Until the game used AI, so he was also harassed until the game was cancelled. I mean, at least they had a better reason for it this time. It seems that there's a bit of a curse, that whenever someone tries to rework the Bear game, trouble wouldn't be far behind. This would especially be the case when it comes to the next attempt at a remake, Five Nights at Freddy's, in real time. But first, what does that actually mean? When most hear the name, they assume it means the FNAF gameplay loop is playing out over the course of a full 6 hours. And while that is a bonus in the game, it isn't FNAF in real time's main gameplay. The idea seems pretty simple. In this game, you could see the animatronics moving right in front of you, in real time. You would be able to see them enter your office, in real time. You could see Bonnie and Chica, in real time. You can sit and wait idly in the office, in real time. You can even see Foxy sprinting towards you, in real time. Wait, that's also in the original game. But the thing is, that's also not what FNAF in real time is. Well, it is, but also not really, trying to explain what exactly this game is took a lot more work than you'd expect. And that's because it's kind of everything. One part remake, one part cool tech demo with original story elements that still play off the source material, and some original gameplay inclusions and alterations. That's a lot of things, a lot of different things at once. The only thing Real-Time lacks is a specific vision, and the result is something as incoherent as the franchise it's trying to blend in with. When you first open the game, you're given a cutscene reminiscent of FNAF 2, wearing what appears to be the Springlock mask from Sister Location. So already it's trying to establish that it is FNAF 1, but not really. A general argument against the existence of a FNAF remake is that the game doesn't really need to look more polished. That's actually the main thing I don't like about Rewritten. The entire reason FNAF is popular to begin with wasn't in spite of Scott Cawthon's low-quality models, but specifically because of them. FNAF only exists because of the game that came before it, Chipper and Sons Lumber Co. A game that's supposed to look friendly and inviting, but got poor reception due to people deeming the models creepy. It was only because of this rejection that Scott turned this weakness into his next game's biggest strength. By making the game prettier, all you're actually doing is covering up one of the reasons people liked it to begin with. Thankfully, FNAF IRT doesn't really do this, instead staying as faithful as possible to the original designs and saving the more drastic changes to the gameplay and animations. However, I'd argue the lack of animations was just as important to the game's original success as the models are. Everyone who's ever played the first FNAF can remember the exact moment the game got to them. When a camera glitches out and comes back with no animatronic, the player is immediately sent spiraling, looking desperately across the cameras to find where it went. When that happens, you're almost immediately filled with a sense of impending dread. After all, if you don't know where the animatronic is, it could be in your office. That fear of the unknown is what kept the animatronics frightening. The original game leaves a lot to the imagination. We don't know exactly how we go from this to this, but picturing how that could have happened is unnerving. In the remake, the player gets to see the animatronics a lot more. In FNAF 1, altogether, Bonnie appears in 6 cameras, in the doorway, and a jump scare. That's 8 total instances in the entire game. In FNAF in real time, he's instead animated at 24 frames per second. Instead of 8 different appearances, now we're already in the hundreds per camera. Naturally, that means you get to see the characters a lot more, in different angles and positions. That fear of the unknown is lessened. But all in all, that's subjective. Some think seeing the animatronics in motion makes it more immersive, and therefore scarier. Fine. But in real time, everything has to be in real time. Foxy used to be one of the more mysterious animatronics, and now he has these animations every time he changes phase. And just in case that was too subtle, they also added a horror sting, just so you really get the message. My only question would be, why? If making the characters move was supposed to make the game more immersive or realistic, it wouldn't make sense for Foxy to only move when you're looking at him. Even the death screen has to be altered to show off the game's new gimmick. But the real-time aspect isn't the main thing that affects its gameplay. As a remake, you'd expect it to just play like FNAF 1, but in that sense, it's not a remake at all. The original game was given a ton of small but noticeable changes that add up to something that's almost fundamentally different. Some of them serve to provide the game with its own identity, others don't do anything at all, and some are just kinda strange. Oh, and the whole real-time thing, it actually affects the gameplay more than you'd think. With the animatronics now moving in real time, they've added a ton of subtle gameplay changes to get you to look at the cameras more. In regular gameplay, you spend a lot of time just sitting in the office, checking your cameras every once in a while to keep Foxy from moving. And you don't even have to look at Foxy specifically to keep him still. Technically, in the original phone call, he never actually says you have to watch Foxy, he just says that his aggression is tied to camera usage. Now it'd be a big shame to put all this work into new animations only for no one to look at them, so they changed Foxy so that you have to look at Pirate's Cove specifically. This isn't the only change from the original game. In FNAF 1, the movement paths were all pretty linear. Bonnie's on your left, Chica's on your right. But in real time, these more linear pathways are opened. The animatronics now have a lot more options on where to go. Every animatronic can now head to either door. This makes them feel more like they're randomly wandering around the establishment rather than specifically heading to kill you. During the first few nights, there were several instances of animatronics making it all the way to the hall corner before just turning around and leaving. Hi, are you just leaving? Okay. That's the second encounter that's just like, you know what? I don't really feel like it. I like this. It makes the mascots feel a lot more like they're possessed by children over them beelining straight to your office to murder you. This also gives you more time to look at the animatronics moving around. Bonnie and Chica were animated to have slightly different philosophies with their movement. Bonnie was animated to look a little too smooth to be a robot, while Chica's movements are a lot more akin to a zombie, her body shifting in ways that are humanly impossible. That's really cool, hopefully making up for the fact that mechanically they now serve the exact same role, going into either of your doorways before you close the corresponding door on them. When they finally do get to your office, you might notice something. There's no sting sound effect. You know, the ones that play when animatronic is at the door? It's just gone. Instead, it was replaced with this new animation of the animatronics appearing in the darkness of the doorway, which admittedly does look pretty cool. The animatronics approaching from both sides leads to one major gameplay difference. Freddy has been completely reworked. In FNAF 1, he stalks outside the right-hand door and then basically remains there for the rest of the night. But here, they change him to act a lot more like he does in Ultimate Custom Night. You see him in the hall corner and then close the corresponding door when he tries to attack you. But unlike Bonnie and Chica, there's no animation of him entering your door. That means you have to be 100% sure of which side Freddy is coming from at any given time. I really like how this brings the attention back to the titular character. In normal FNAF gameplay, it feels a lot more like Five Nights of Looking at Foxy, or cam stalling Freddy if you're a gamer pro who solved the game. Here, Freddy's presence is a lot more felt. You're thinking of his whereabouts constantly. Generally, I actually quite like these changes. FNAF 1 isn't the most camera-heavy game, so it's smart that they made the cameras more important to showcase the real-time animations. But that leads to an unintended consequence in the form of completely sidelining the other important gameplay feature: the lights. In FNAF 1, after you close the door on an animatronic, you can then turn the lights on to see them in the doorway. That way you know if they're still there. In real time, this doesn't happen. If the door is already closed, the lights don't show you anything. Using the lights to check if they're still there might just have you opening the doors while they're still there, leading to an outcome like this.
Are you fucking, come on, bro.
The only consistent way to know when an animatronic leaves is, once again, through the cameras, showing you an animation in the hallway of the animatronic leaving. I understand that they really want the player to see the work they put into these animations, but I would have preferred if the lights at least did anything. Most of these changes are pretty subjective. They aren't good or bad so much as they're just changes. At very least, they're all pretty reasonably explainable. The same cannot be said about what's, in my opinion, a much more egregious issue. Many people have described FNAF in real time as the most marketed FNAF fan game ever. For a solid couple years, you couldn't be in the community without seeing any of its many trailers, previews, contests, tie-in songs, and even its appearance on .go's charity stream. You might be wondering how it's even possible to market something that doesn't make any money. FNAF fan games are free. They aren't a very financially viable business venture. However, I'd still argue that all the pre-release material made for the game to build hype is still technically marketing. They're just advertising real-time as a studio rather than the game itself. With that in mind, I don't think there's actually anything wrong with advertising something you made. It's perfectly reasonable for an artist to want to draw attention to their own work. However, a part of me can't help but feel like that advertising mentality bled into the actual gameplay. A lot of big design choices seem to have been made with the mentality that they'd get the game more attention from Let's Players. This is how I'd imagine Real-Time Studio wants the player to react to it. Hello everybody, my name is Terror, and today I'm playing FNAF in real time.
Ooh, the light bulb is moving in real time! Oh, he's moving in real time! Oh my god. Look at him. Look at him, he's so beautiful. He's moving in real time.
Unfortunately, the response ended up looking a lot more like this.
Oh, hey Barney, what's up, bro? Why is he looking at me like that? Why does he look so disinterested?
Why is he standing like that?
In Mongel Stardive, there's a whole world of monsters to capture and turn into monsterlings.
Why is he standing like that?
But don't worry! Real-Time Studio added as much as possible to get you to react to it! by any means necessary. This game seems to have a really big emphasis on scripted events. Several times throughout the game, it will just force up the camera to make you see something cool. Night 1 has a scripted cutscene at 5 AM. You get to see them all come to life on the show stage before they all leave to surround you before the night ends. Notice how this game has to have a scripted moment to mimic what FNAF 1 did naturally. Then we get a cutscene with the iconic, the legendary, holy fastball! This is the kind of thing a Let's Player would say. The only reason this was included is because it will make the Let's Player laugh and agree. Then there's Night 3, the ultimate YouTuber bait, painstakingly designed to cause the poggiest chant possible. The night begins like the other two, with one small difference. The lights just don't work anymore. Not like it mattered much because they were useless to begin with, but still, there's a phone call telling you how to deal with Foxy, but he's more aggressive than usual, and watching him doesn't really stall him. In fact, it only makes him move more. Foxy begins rushing down the hall before turning around, and with this, the night has actually begun.
Donovan, things aren't going to go the way they're supposed to.
Everything up to this point was a scripted cutscene. So Foxy goes to your left door and right door, and you have to close them.
The person you're trying to reach is no longer in service.
Then Foxy goes to your left door and right door, and you have to close them, but faster. Then at 3 AM, the other animatronics start moving in on you. This would have been a lot scarier if they didn't already pull this card on night 1. And that's the night! Everyone then goes back to their spots. Remember when I said that Freddy moving was good because it brought the attention back to Freddy? Night 3 is supposed to be Freddy's introduction night. Now, if you're 12 years old, you might think that was the coolest thing ever. But as soon as you actually pay attention, instead of eating up the hype moments in aura, you begin to see that there is a severe lack of substance. When I said the beginning part of the night was basically a cutscene, I was being a little too generous. This whole night is a glorified cutscene. And under the loud, blaring music and the phone call you aren't allowed to skip is the easiest gameplay loop ever designed. When Foxy's at the door, close the door. He appears in the doorways. There is no reason to be using the cameras. And also, to put it nicely, in general, the music is not good. This is like a really shitty song too, by the way.
This song is 2 seconds long. This song is 2 seconds long. This song is 2 seconds long.
Most uses of music tend to detract from the gameplay rather than enhance it. And when I'm playing a horror game, most famously known for its silence, the last thing I would want to add is blaringly loud boss music. But as a whole, this night is emblematic of a much more prevalent issue. There isn't a single normal night in the whole game. Night 1 has that scripted cutscene at 5 AM. Night 2 only has Bonnie and Chica, so the only mechanic you actually have to use is the doors. Night 3 has the aforementioned Foxy boss fight. And that leaves 4, 5, and 6, which have this new camera swapping gimmick. I hate this. So Freddy's introduction night also introduces an entirely new mechanic, as well as Freddy, and I can understand exactly why they did this. So with the new balancing, the only actual threat in the game anymore is Freddy. You don't even have to check Foxy even though he goes down both halls because it makes a different sound depending on what side he's on. And because checking which side Freddy is on takes 1 second, it's clear that someone thought the game would be too easy. If all you have to do is check the hall corners to see which side he's on, you'll never notice any of the other cameras. So in their infinite wisdom, Real Time Studio decided to make you look at the other cameras by forcing you to look at the other cameras. Every once in a while, you'll be given a forced jump scare, which on its own defeats the purpose of the jump scares being a punishment to learn from. And then for the rest of the night, the camera you were looking at has been swapped with the camera used before it. It plays off your muscle memory by forcing you to use different camera layouts. It'd be a cool additional challenge if there was any way to prevent it. Instead, it's just kind of annoying that as a player you're punished for using the cameras, especially because they changed the gameplay to specifically revolve around them. After that gimmick is introduced in Night 4, the only nights in the game that don't have them anymore are the challenges. And they're even worse! Something I actually like about this game It makes Freddy Fazbear's Pizza feel like an actual place. The mini-games between nights allow you to walk around the establishment. They make the area feel more like an actual building rather than a collection of dissociated rooms. After night 3, you unlock the Fazbear Employment Console, which is unrealistic as it expects FNAF fans to be employed. To get the true ending of the game, you have to beat 5 different challenges. In theory, these would provide more variety from the main nights, but when you actually play them, most of these barely stray from the normal gameplay. Instead, it just feels like an extra few bonus nights to pad the playtime. The first challenge is called Bullies. It's basically a harder version of Night 2, as only Bonnie and Chica are active. And by harder, I mean that on the thinnest of margins. It's basically just Night 2. Challenge 2 is called Don't Look at Me, and is the inverse of Bullies. Now you have to deal with Freddy and Foxy. Challenge 3 is called Nightmare. It's called that because if you're epileptic, your worst nightmare will come true. This one is Night 4, except it's red and evil. Oh, it's red. That's how you know it's scary.
What is this shit? What is this going on?
This is such a shitty challenge. I don't even have anything to say about this one. The gameplay isn't actually different, it just gave me a headache. Challenge 4 is Power Surge.
This one is also flashing, but it's green.
The gimmick this time is that the cameras don't work, so you're just stuck in the office waiting for sound cues to play. Real engaging. Then lastly is Challenge 5, 2020-2020. For a game like FNAF in Real Time, that's taken almost every opportunity in its gameplay to get you to look at the cameras, you'd expect the final challenge, the night the entire game was leading up to utilize the real-time elements as much as possible. But it mostly doesn't. The winning strategy actually has you ignoring the cameras and lights as much as possible. No longer do you feel that desperation of relying on these really finicky devices. Instead, I mean, you can take them or leave them and you'll still survive. With the final challenge completed, you unlock the final piece of content in the game, Night 7, which isn't actually a night, but rather an entirely scripted cutscene with some admittedly good animation. But to even get into talking about this, we have to get into the story. FNAF's story is infamous. Specifically, the fact the story is infamously convoluted, being so unclear and distant from the gameplay that many have made actual careers out of trying to decipher it. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if this game was single-handedly responsible for adding the word lore to the general lexicon. It might be more known than anything else in the game itself. FNAF in Real Time story is delivered very differently. The first thing you'll notice starting the very first night is that there is no phone call. You know, the ones that were added to be the tutorial and explain the game's story. There are still calls in FNAF in Real Time, but Night 1 specifically just has nothing. Rather than the more out-of-the-way storytelling in FNAF 1, most of this game's story is instead told through more typical cutscenes. Just to compare, pretty much the entire premise of FNAF 1's lore is explained in one cutscene at the end of Night 3. But plot twist, despite appearing as a remake of the first FNAF game, the story isn't. Taking place 10 years after the events of FNAF 1, it was designed to slot into place with the actual FNAF timeline. The story mainly centers around two original characters, Donovan and Brother. While William and Michael Afton are still there, but they're more like forces of nature, puppet masters manipulating the story from the shadows. According to the newspapers in the opening cutscene, the timeline is about the same as the actual FNAF story. Fazbear Entertainment is founded in 1983, opening the first animatronic family diner, which is Fredbear's. The attraction is closed after the co-founder's son dies in the FNAF 4 bite. The owners part ways, and the FNAF 2 location opens and closes after the missing children's incident. The FNAF 1 location opens up for several years, eventually ending on the help wanted ad looking for a security guard. Most of this didn't need to be explained in the cold opening of the game. Even to me, as a fan who's more experienced with the games, it still comes across as a lot of exposition to seemingly no payoff. Unless pointing to the screen and going, I know that thing, counts as a payoff, which, judging by the writing choices, it very well could be. So we're playing as Donovan, working as a security guard to get closer to finding the truth about Freddy's after the disappearance of his daughter. You might notice from this premise that this isn't FNAF 1's story. Doing your own thing isn't a bad thing. At least it wouldn't be if you weren't trying to make a FNAF 1 remake. This game's story actually takes place after Michael Afton does his shifts in FNAF 1. That's because he's now playing the role of the phone guy, working behind the scenes to get others to find the truth. So Donovan works his first few shifts, and after learning the animatronics are haunted, he decides to work from the inside to take down Fazbear Entertainment. Michael then returns to the FNAF 1 establishment, and according to the FNAF VHS-inspired monitor series, which isn't actually in the game, but rather is an external web series that you, for some reason, have to watch to understand the story because they couldn't be bothered to put it in the actual game, he searches through the pizzeria, finding Brother in a hidden room. He then teleports around a little and brings the other animatronics to life. Okay. Then there's the Night 7 cutscene. You get to hear a cool, awesome monologue, which is trying desperately to be 1/1,000,000th as cool as the FNAF 6 ending. Brother gives a monologue about the dead kids, and that's it. Well, there is one more line.
I'm not a daughter. I'm a brother to many.
Now, as funny as this line sounds, if you play this monologue right after the opening cutscene, it almost sounds like a response to something Donovan says at the very beginning of the game.
I know what you did. I know what you did to my daughter.
I'm not a daughter.
Plot twist, Brother was Donovan's daughter. In-game, Brother has a very clear connection with drawings. He puts drawings up on the walls in a minigame, he appears in the Commercial 2 video, which advertises a drawing competition. In the Monitor series, Brother is seen looking sadly at a drawing of presumably Donovan and his child, and a few episodes earlier, there's a note from Donovan's daughter about a drawing. It's pretty clearly spelled out here. That makes the final scene of the Monitor series very touching, actually. Donovan, seeing who he now recognizes as his own child in distress, goes down to Brother's level and comforts him. Even after being completely disfigured beyond recognition, trapped in this robotic prison, Donovan is still there to comfort his child, no matter how broken they may now be. There's only one small problem. This isn't Donovan! This is Michael Afton, just comforting Brother because he looks sad. I don't think there's any deeper connection between these two characters. So, what happened to Donovan? On his quest to find the truth, Donovan works with someone going by PH Naff. But, that's not PH Naff. That's William Afton, who was watching Donovan the whole time. Afton kills Donovan, whose spirit later wakes up in a Springlock suit as Donovan Duck. Michael leaves a tape for him, but it's unknown if he ever receives that message. It basically just says that Donovan wasn't the first to pass under his watch, which could be referring to the FNAF 4 crying child, or the murder victims, or Donovan's daughter. Really, it's as open-ended as you can get. This is also framed like the FNAF 6 ending, so that makes like 3 really detailed monologues. Donovan's death leads to the opening cutscene of the game, where his spirit, possessing the animatronic suit, accuses Brother of being the murderer who killed his daughter. Brother responds, very reasonably, by having Bonnie and Sheikah tear his suit to fucking shreds, causing Donovan to be double dead. That makes Donovan's last interaction with his child really funny, because what do you mean Brother just accidentally killed his own father? That's hilarious. Well, That story was almost good. Unfortunately, the only really great scene was only good because I misinterpreted it out of context as something way better than it actually was. Instead of Donovan, at the core of this story is by far the most controversial element of this remake, Taran's original character, Brother. Now, don't kill me for this. I don't hate him. You might be surprised that it took me this long to talk about Brother. The iconic character. Everyone knows Brother, and the reason for this is because Brother is barely in the game. He shows up for, collectively, a handful of minutes at most, though he plays a very important role in the game's story and appeared everywhere on the promotional material. The inclusion of Brother is by far the most criticized thing about this game. In fact, he's become so infamous that other fan games have made fun of his existence. In FNAF 1 Remake, after beating the game you unlock an extras menu, and in there is a little doodle of a scrapped character named Sister, a not so subtle jab at our multicolored friend. But why would someone hate Brother? Many believe that he's a cringy self-insert, just haphazardly thrown into a story that wasn't his own. And while the second part is kinda true, Brother isn't a self-insert. A lot of people came to that conclusion because of the similarities seen between Brother's design and Taran's persona.
Taran looks exactly like Brother.
In reality, the situation is actually the opposite. Brother was designed to be a character first, and later on, Taran's avatar was made with a similar patterned sweater to serve as a nod to Brother, to sort of connect him with his own character. Again, Brother isn't based off of Taran, Taran's character's shirt was based off of Brother. Nonetheless, it's easy to see why people could get that mixed up. From a glance, it seems really straightforward, which is probably what caused people to not fact check this. Some would even compare Brother's inclusion with Lockjaw from the Return to Freddy's, a character who actually is a self-insert. But as for me personally, Brother brings me joy. At first, it was ironic, but over time, he's actually genuinely grown on me. There's something very endearing about taking this pre-existing cast of characters and just adding your own to join them. When I was playing the game, there was a direct correlation between the amount of time Brother was on screen and the amount of time I was having fun. In fact, I would even argue that Brother is the only consistently good inclusion. Just look at my reactions to every time he appeared in the game. Brother! Woo! So
You're going to be in here.
It's Brother! He was always there! Yes, Brother! Woo! I got to play as Brother! You're getting rid of a lot of... Brother! I saw Brother for one frame. Info that could change everything. Brother! It's Brother! Ah! It's Brother!
I'm not a daughter.
I'm a brother to many!
I'm a brother to many.
Brother. So as one of the 2 Brother fans in existence, me and Taran, I will take it upon myself to defend his inclusion. Many have said that he replaced Golden Freddy, but that's actually not true. To me, that says they haven't beaten the game. After the final cutscene, you unlock a real-time clock mode that lets you look through the cameras. And, in the kitchen, there he is, in all his glory. So Brother doesn't replace Golden Freddy, he just replaces every use he could serve in the game or story. If any of these awesome points still didn't convince you, here are the top 5 Brother moments in FNAF in real time. Yo, what is up guys? Today we're going over the top 5 Brother moments. Number 5. In this scene, you can see Brother for exactly 1 frame. Number 4. In this scene, you can play as Brother. Number 3. In this scene, you get Brother to look at you in the opening cutscene of the game. Number 2. As you can see here, you get the Brother jump scare. Honorable mentions include when Brother shows up in your pizzeria and in the menu. Number 1. I'm not a daughter, I'm a brother to many. His iconic catchphrase in the final cutscene of the game. But to be entirely serious, Brother's inclusion is good for one important reason. If FNAF in real time didn't have Brother, what would they even have? As a remake of an existing property, this is a game that has struggled with its identity since it was first conceived. The game's design is convoluted and made out of a bunch of conflicting parts. it doesn't really fit in anywhere. Not quite a remake, but clearly not a normal fan game. In the beginning of the game, you can see the brother jump scare, which contains a meme sound effect, reflecting the strange and inconsistent tone the game has in general. Brother is the most criticized element of FNAF in real time, but at his core, he is FNAF in real time. In general, nearly every issue in this remake contributes to what's, in my opinion, the biggest downgrade from the original game. A distinct lack of horror. In almost every aspect, this game doesn't have the ambience of the original. Generally, the identity of this game seems to be FNAF 1 minus the subtlety, which, in my opinion, is what made that first game so notable to begin with. When you fail to close the doors on Bonnie and Chica, you can see the animatronics long before they kill you, which eliminates the startle the jump scares had. But even if it somehow catches you off guard, sometimes you'll get one of the new Easter egg jump scares, where Chica spins around, or Foxy does the funny Dwayne Johnson expression. While FNAF 1's hidden character was never mentioned in-game anywhere, Real Times is all over its marketing. In their attempt to bring people back to the original game, it would end up suffering from the same problems seen in its sequels. FNAF being a collection of images wasn't just a limitation, it was an intentional design choice that added to the immersion and horror of the game. Instead, it's now in real time, like the Steel Wool games. In exactly one cutscene, they explain the entire premise of the game, taking out all the mystery. The subtle storytelling FNAF became famous for was replaced with cutscenes, a lot like the ones in Security Breach. If I wanted to play FNAF but with no horror, why wouldn't I just play that? All the other changes in this game feel like they were just made for the sake of it. You already played FNAF before, so why not have things be a little different? But that also makes its title of FNAF in Real Time a bit misleading. It isn't FNAF in Real Time, but rather FNAF in Real Time with a different story and slightly different gameplay plus 6-hour mode. It seems confused. What actually happened here? Where did everything go so wrong? As previously mentioned, FNAF in Real Time could very well be one of the most marketed fan games ever made. When it first came out, some said there was more work put into the music videos and trailers than the actual game. And while that's probably not true, in the years leading up to its release, Terran and Real Time Studio did as much as they possibly could to advertise the game. And while there's nothing wrong with wanting people to see something you made, where it becomes a problem is that while the vision of the game was evolving, that wasn't as clear in the game's advertising. This is the first trailer for Real Time, clearly a retake of the original trailer for FNAF 1. It shows Freddy in the day, then a newspaper, then a phone call that isn't in the game, and then it does this. Then you hear a sting. There is no sting in the final game. So that was the trailer for Nights 5 at FNAF in Real Time. This was posted in August of 2023, relatively early in its development. This trailer likely served more as a pitch for the general premise rather than anything concrete about the actual game. On October 22nd, 2023, Real Time Studio released the Interactive Demo Showcase, a collection of videos that use the end card feature to bring the viewer through a night at Freddy's. This was also uploaded a week before the release of the FNAF movie, which likely brought the project a lot more attention, especially considering it's the most viewed video about the game on their channel. This one is also just to show its merits as a FNAF remake, not containing any signs that more fundamental changes have been made, besides one little appearance of Brother on the menu. Trailer 2, which released the next month, is a little more transparent about its differences. In this trailer, they say Donovan a lot. Donovan. Then, we get formally introduced to Brother.
Oh, brother!
Why are they framing this like a Smash Bros. Reveal trailer? Even though we've already seen him pop up in the interactive demo showcase, now it's a lot clearer that he'll be playing a much bigger role than initially thought. On January 27th the next year, they'd release the first of 3 tie-in songs, Never Seen Us Move. On March 1st, they'd release the gameplay trailer, which, while still not really highlighting the changes as much as they probably should have, they still showed off a lot of the new additions they've made on top of the structure of FNAF 1, like the minigames and VHS cutscenes. Even still, it's relatively easy for the average viewer to miss that this game would be completely different in terms of its story, let alone game design. The very next day, YouTuber Dako played a pre-release demo of the game on a charity stream. Everything seemed to go well, although the demo was only one night long. It wouldn't be as clear to the average viewer that the game was changed on a deeper level. In June and July, they'd release 2 other songs, Born in 1987 and You Made a Monster. Then, finally, on December 23rd, 2024, the full game was finally released. Oh my god, that was a lot to cover. Through all these different trailers, there's a very clear trend. As time would go on, FNAF in Real Time would go from this simple concept to the amalgam of random additions we know today. But that was just the face of it. What exactly was going on behind the scenes? As you could probably tell from the final product, FNAF in Real Time didn't have a super straightforward development. The story of Real Time's development starts with Taryn. Taryn is someone who's been a fan of FNAF since he was a kid, growing up watching Let's Players and listening to Try Hard Ninja songs.
At the start of August, directly on the FNAF anniversary date, I hung out with my friend over and we played Five Nights at Freddy's. And I thought to myself how no one has still, out of all of the 9 years of Five Nights at Freddy's, I still haven't seen anyone make an actual game properly with super accurate animations to FNAF.
Taryn had an idea. A simple mod where the characters move in the cameras. That's all FNAF in Real Time was supposed to be. The game's original trailer had the animatronics moving around, and while it would be infeasible for Scott to do all that animation by himself, with enough time, fully realizing that vision wouldn't be too difficult. All they'd have to do is animate the animatronics moving and replace the still images with videos, right? Well, that was actually a lot easier said than done. See, it turns out the reason Scott nor any fan developer has ever made the characters move is because the software used to make the FNAF games, ClickTeam Fusion, sucks. At animation, at least. ClickTeam is a very basic game engine. It was designed to make games like this, and this, but not games like this. Sure, there are small animations in FNAF 1, like the jump scares for example, but it's not actual movement, but rather a collection of images played in succession. No real-time rendering to be found here, which means the only way to have fluid movement in ClickTeam is to follow FNAF 1's lead and have everything be pre-rendered. While this means the game isn't technically in real time, as in it's not rendered in real time, what it does achieve is still impressive in its own right, using pre-rendered WebM files to effectively add several semi-transparent videos per camera to fit the different character combinations. It's all pre-rendered, but it effectively gives the illusion of the game playing out in real time, although that leads to an entirely new issue. ClickTeam games are also notable for their very small file sizes. Exported games have to be under 2 GB, which means everything has to be incredibly optimized. Another game that has advanced animation like this is PostShift 2, which due to these limitations actually had to be uploaded in 2 parts just to include all the nights. This is one simple animation from FNAF in Real Time, of Bonnie walking down the West Hall. All in all, it lasts about 25 seconds. Rendering this out as a PNG sequence, in 24 frames per second, takes up over a gigabyte of space. That's half the total limit with 1 location and 1 character. When you factor that Bonnie can now go in any camera rather than just that one side, it only makes the problem more pronounced. However, WebMs would once again save the day, as they're way more optimized than an uncompressed PNG sequence. Even today, the game still fits under that file size limit, although Real-Time Studio would eventually shift away from ClickTeam to the Unity engine. The reason for this is because of the biggest issue with the modding idea. Modding ClickTeam games is notoriously difficult, as unlike normal programming softwares, it's especially difficult to decompile and recompile them. The solution to this issue was to make FNAF in Real Time an entirely new fan game, so a whole new challenge came up in recreating the original game in a way that played and looked as accurate as possible to the original, despite being made in an entirely different engine. Lacking the skills in both programming and animation, Taryn's first course of action is to reach out to 2 people, Divvy and SFM, and Mr. Freddy64 for the programming. That name may sound a bit familiar, and that's because they're the one who made FNAF Deluxe Edition. Since that game was already an almost perfect FNAF 1 remake, it made sense to bring them onto the project. With that, making in real time would become a 2-step problem. 1, recreate FNAF basically perfectly, and 2, add in the new animations. So FNAF in Real Time was originally an entirely different project with an entirely different scale. This perfectly explains why the game feels so incongruent. The way I see it, this game is a lot like the ship of Theseus. If you keep slowly replacing every part while still calling it FNAF, eventually you'll have something entirely different with the same name. And at that point, is it not fair when people get mad that it's not FNAF anymore? FNAF in Real Time released to a polarizing response, being staunchly rejected by both many fans of the original game, but also by former fans who were excited before the vision changed over time. I'd imagine a lot of people were caught off guard by the new original story, when all they were looking for was a remake of a game they already liked. They just wanted to see the animatronics move in the cameras without all of those other additions. The core issue was a lack of communication from Real-Time Studio, as it should have been more clear to these fans that the original idea of the game has been changing. But even after its change in direction, an easy solution to this would have been to include some sort of classic mode, allowing fans to still have that original idea they showcased in 2023. However, its negative reception didn't end there. In fact, expectations would be the least of their concerns. As far as I could gather, the backlash to this game can be separated into 3 tiers. The first one is the criticism towards the game. A lot of this criticism was well-founded, coming from former fans disappointed that the final version of the game didn't match their expectations. Next would be the backlash from a place of concern, mainly concerning the legality of the project. Then the last tier is just straight up harassment towards the developers, which is obviously never justified. Let's start with the criticism towards the game, most of which matches what I've already said in my review. Some of the gameplay changes were hit or miss, the story isn't FNAF 1's, Brother is cringe. But over time, some of these talking points would telephone into a very different picture. Dissatisfaction with the game would become misinformation around it. People said that Taran had to bring out a new programmer that completely rewrote the entire code of the game with a tight deadline to get the game out. And while the coder in question was brought on late into development, they made a statement pointing out that pretty much everything there was greatly exaggerated. At worst, Taran was just kind of incompetent as a lead. Some critiques are completely contradictory. People don't like that Brother replaced Golden Freddy, but they also don't like that he only appears a few times in the game. Some think they added too little to FNAF, some think they changed too much. Really, it's impossible for the game to please everyone, because had they just added new animations to FNAF 1 like many would have wanted, people would be complaining that it isn't transformative enough to warrant being made. That's probably the most consistent criticism levied at the project. Throughout nearly its entire development history, FNAF in Real Time is a game that has been racked with claims and arguments regarding its legality. This issue was appearing even in its earliest months of development. As soon as it was first announced, it was already facing claims of piracy, that the remake would effectively serve as a replacement to the original game. The previously mentioned FNAF Plus, before its cancellation, was in the Fanverse initiative. Before that, Scott actually told Fiznom to cancel another remake he did for the same reason. This new hurdle meant they had to find a way to ensure that everyone who played the game had to own the original. The solution they found was to employ a similar tactic used by LEGO FNAF, ensuring that you owned FNAF 1 before allowing the game to function. But even with this workaround, it's still technically a gray area. It's already very taboo within the FNAF community to remake an existing game, and when that does happen, you have to make damn sure that you're going in your own direction with it. This was likely the main reason why a lot of the broader gameplay changes would be introduced, as if they kept that original vision of the game, there was a very real chance it could have been taken down. But this wouldn't be the last legal concern. On March 3rd, 2024, Real-Time Studio worked with a number of small businesses to sell merchandise of Brother. This raised a lot of eyebrows, once again in regards to legality, as FNAF in Real Time, obviously, uses the FNAF likeness. Though it's important to note that the Five Nights at Freddy's name was not associated with the merchandise. In fact, there were specifically disclaimers about that on the website. They also weren't selling anything with any character besides Brother, and Real-Time Studio wasn't profiting from these sales, with all the profits instead going to the small business owners. Still, this caused another wave of backlash towards the project. Over time, the community's opinion of Terran became that of a businessman, someone who solely wants to squeeze out money from the community rather than focusing on the art. Eventually, the toxicity around the project caused Terran to back away while it was finishing development, as after a delay in the release date, the response from some people was to immediately begin sending gore and death threats, which is sadly not the first time this has happened in the community. So I decided to do what seemingly no one else would. Instead of gaining an opinion of Real-Time Studio from random tweets anyone could say online, the final frontier in my research for the story behind this game was getting in contact with Terran directly to get the full behind-the-scenes picture. For a while, I was under the impression that despite being credited as the creator of the project and lead of Real-Time Studio, Terran didn't actually do any of the foundational work besides the music. This wasn't actually true. He was the one who came up with the WebM solution to the storage problem. He also worked on compositing and adding shadows to the animations, which means every animation in the game had to go through him, which was a lot more work than people give him credit for.
I helped originate everything. I helped, kind of bring the project together, I guess, which I would say the real important heroes of that are the people who actually worked on it, right? And like people who did all the work, I would say.
I asked about some of the more drastic changes and what prompted them to be made. The answer I heard had basically confirmed my theories.
I would say the biggest thing that made kind of the game change from being a mod to a game is really, I think that the very first Seeds was when it was a different game. It's really interesting because Brother was never supposed to be in the mod, but once we started switching to the game, Brother was there from the first 2 months. When we realized that all these fans were clamoring to see this game, I think the pressure was kind of felt of well, this needs to be something fun and really unique. It shouldn't just be another type of silly mod or something like that. Shouldn't be another type of thing. It's kind of it should be more exciting and more fun.
The game clearly grew to have a different goal, and that shift in goal caused the core issue. This sentiment would continue in further answers.
But if I was going to do FNAF in real time again, I would be very clear on the get-go on what it's supposed to be. Because it started with a mod, and then it grew and expanded, and I think that all projects deserve to grow and expand. I just unfortunately think that as a fan base, I think it felt very confusing trying to keep up with everything. The scope changed as the game went on, and it's not anybody's fault for not knowing the inner workings of what the whole game is supposed to be.
I also asked about something many were critical of at the time, the many pieces of advertising material and how, to the general community, it appeared as if they were putting more work into music videos and trailers than the actual game.
And that was one of the biggest mistakes as well, is because that music video, as much as it being cool and fun, it ended up making it seem like it was all about the other stuff about FNAF in real time. It made it feel no, it's not about the game. It's about making the next trailer. It's about making the next music video. It's about making the next little thingy. It's about making, whatever. I was just getting way too over in my head, and I tried to make every single thing a small, fun project because, in my opinion, I was thinking, oh, I'm engaging the fan base and getting them excited while we're just needing a little bit extra time to cook our game, right? That's what I really thought it was. I thought it was as simple as oh, we just need a little bit more time. It's chill, That was not what was happening.
Lastly, I wanted to talk about the backlash.
I remember getting my first hate comment on the very first video. That first time I got that, I remember the first thing I was doing was being it doesn't matter. I remember having the thickest skin for a while, until around July when we released that actual demo. When people were criticizing the game, I felt bad, but I didn't get the this sort of anxiety complex that I'm diagnosed with and I have now. In July, that's when I received that's when I got doxxed for the first time. And the truth is, I'm being completely transparent, it's all the other criticism and things, and still criticisms that I still get today, don't matter, they don't compare to being doxxed. If you dislike the game and you even are quippy about it, I don't mind that, right? But it's when people were attacking me that it absolutely was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I got doxxed, and that is what has given me my kind of chronic anxiety. That's when I was overly sensitive to things.
It's a very unique position to be the most hated person in a community. Imagine a group of people cyberstalking you, lurking through every public post you've ever made looking for something to hate you for. wave after wave of backlash sent against you whenever your head isn't buried in the sand. Over time, so many people get a twisted vision of you that you start to lose yourself. The FNAF community has a problem. In general, there seems to be a bit of a trend towards fan games that's been getting ever more prevalent. Postshift 2 is a technical marvel. Being developed in Click Team by RJack25 over the course of 4 years, everything about this game was designed to push Click Team to its limits. Due to its impressive animations, the size of the game was so big it exceeded the file limit, so it had to be split into 2 parts. Releasing on Halloween 2022, it was met with overwhelming backlash. Almost as soon as it came out, the overwhelming consensus was that this game was terrible. It was convoluted, its mechanics not being explained through gameplay but rather multi-paragraph explanations. The appeal of a FNAF game was the trial and error of learning the mechanics, but here you wouldn't be getting that without the required reading. It was hard. So hard that Ayuladim, a creator notable for completing every single fan game he attempts, couldn't even beat the first night. RJack was immediately made aware of that sentiment. Postshift 2 was removed from GameJolt just 5 hours after release. The backlash was so overwhelming that he took down the game he spent nearly half a decade making, later releasing a patch that toned down the difficulty. Shortly after this, he was reached out to by a massive FNAF YouTuber, who was covering the game. What resulted was one of the most insulting interviews I've ever seen. Imagine spending years on a project only to receive message after message for weeks telling you that your game is too hard. After a while, all you could think about is what you could have done better. And even though you've already tried to fix the issue as best as you could, the first thing you're faced with is this.
So, the game is hard. It's very hard. Yes. Did you mean to make the game as hard as it was on the launch version?
The rest of the 16-minute interview would play out with the same tone.
The playtesters. There's 2 credited. What version of the game did they play? When did they play it?
Facing this disrespect, RJack would do nothing about it. By this point, the guy was clearly mentally drained, and you can hear the disappointment and sadness in his voice.
The big problem was that I did not have enough, I wasn't reaching out to enough people to test the game, so it was just me testing it.
All he wanted to do was release a fun game, and the fact people didn't like it is clearly getting to him. I think it'd get to anyone. Didn't pick up on that.
But it's that guy with the puppet PFP plays every game, he was streaming it, and he couldn't beat Night 1, and I thought it was really funny because he plays literally everything, and in the title, I can't beat Night 1, he just gave up.
The whole endeavor felt like a humiliation ritual. You made a bad game, so now we have to make an example out of you.
It's a learning experience for everybody involved, obviously, mostly you.
These are people who have spent hundreds of hours working on these free fan games for people to play and enjoy. And the result is backlash, death threats, and harassment. I'm not someone in the FNAF community. I'm in no position to police the actions of people I don't know. But I will say this. If the people in this space are so quick to push against the very projects pushing the medium forward, don't be surprised when these talented people stop engaging with the space. If FNAF in real time was a train wreck, then the community pushed it off the track. The fact that anyone was harassed over what's at worst a bad fan game reflects poorly on the community. This sort of reaction comes across as very entitled. It's fine to criticize these games, but I think it's reductive to ignore everything they do well in order to find something to be mad about. Rather than fostering a community that builds each other up through constructive criticism, instead, the go-to move is to dunk on it for Twitter likes.
There's nothing like going from being excited to work with people to being afraid of people. The worst feeling was having that misinformation spread to other friends and having to try and convince them that the ludicrous rhetoric that they heard online was made by someone who wanted to see me be hated and all sorts of hurtful things. That was just awful. Ever since then, I was terrified that anywhere I would go, I would be noticed as Taryn from FNAF in Real Time, and I would be like harassed to hell and back, and they would just fucking hate my ass. It was so anxiety ridden. Like I would be afraid to go outside instead of like wearing like the right perfect clothes and like and like, you know, like making sure that like my hair was perfect or whatever, and like I would try and act a certain way anywhere I'd go outside because I'd be worried that someone was like filming me or something. It was, my anxiety was just insane. That is the genuine thing that I have felt like, and I still do feel like that, to be honest, because something like dealing with harassment and dealing with these other big fan game developers coming out and saying things that are just so hurtful because their game or whatever, and it's just, I don't understand. That turned into harassment is just, it's not great.
Those last few words Terrence said were genuinely shocking to me, and looking into what he meant by them would cause a rippling effect, one that would dramatically shift the production of this video. Allow me to expunge a little bit about my process, how the sausage is made, if you will. Usually, when I add a video idea to my list of topics, it's because I can already see the narrative forming. For Replanted, it was the fact I had explicitly asked for a remake. For Has Been, it was how the finale failed my expectations, and for Real Time, I was prepared to make it a case study on fan entitlement. That's what the whole Post Shift 2 discussion was about. But there's a pivotal difference between these two projects. Post Shift was a game rejected by its players. Real Time is a game that was rejected primarily by its peers. The most ire towards Real Time seems to have come not from random fans or even those disappointed by the game, but rather from other fan game developers. The exact people who would understand more than anyone how much work had to have gone into this game. The exact people who understand how vile the community could be to people and projects they don't like. They're the exact people I would have expected to be the most sympathetic. Explaining the rationale behind the backlash Real Time got, Playtime with Percy creator Fazzy Funbear said, "It's hated because it's a bad game that removed everything that made FNAF 1 work functionally as a game for hype moments and aura." Marco Antonio, the creator of FNAF 1 Remake, would add, "The game tries so bad to just be appealing in the visual aspect. Not only with the pre-rendered cutscenes, but with the Foxy boss fight, the added cameras that don't really serve any purpose on gameplay, and Night 7 while abandoning the gameplay and making it not fun to play. I'm aware there was passion put into it, though I think Terran is the one that screwed everyone over and made the game end up in the state it's in, so I hope they take it as a learning experience and improve from it. Except for Terran. I don't trust anyone that does art only for money. Radiance, known for the Five Nights at Treasure Island games, would put things a lot more bluntly. It's soulless garbage marketed towards YouTubers and players that don't know any better than, ooh, shiny. It is not a real fan game. That is all." Fiznom, someone who not too long ago was literally making a FNAF 1 remake, had this to say about FNAF in Real Time.
I mean, I can't really be that mean to that game because it's a free, right? It's a free FNAF fan game. Like, I can't be mean. I can't be so mean for a team of like 50 people and like... It's just genuinely worse than Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Scott Cawthon made that game in a cave with a box of scraps. In Real Time, compared to that, is like a joke, you know? Like, that game is an absolute joke.
At least Real Time Studio was able to finish their game. Yes, the game has some funny elements and questionable design choices, but to call the entire project a joke just seems needlessly cruel. This type of response also recontextualizes a lot of the jokes made at Real Time's expense. How many of these were made because they found certain elements funny, and how many came from a more bitter place? It's a lot harder to laugh at a joke when it very well could have come from malice. The only natural conclusion I can draw is that these other developers had to have been jealous of the attention Real Time was getting. A game that, in their eyes, was just a derivative retread of the original game minus any of the artistic merit. Undeserving of the attention that these other, more creative or unique games were never able to get. It's a game that took a shortcut, one that through its focus on advertising seems to have been made not to fulfill a creative vision, but rather to attract as much attention as possible. Attention that should have gone to better games. It doesn't matter if the game had some cool gameplay concepts or an impressive amount of animations, they saw this game getting more attention than they thought it deserved, so they jumped onto the bandwagon. When really, what they should have been doing was looking into the reasons Real Time got that attention to begin with. It had teasers, original songs, and a ton of build-up from all corners of the community. Maybe if they hadn't spent all their time deriding it, they could have learned a thing or two about marketing. That even though it's just a souped-up FNAF remake, it was able to overcome its development challenges to serve as a sister game to Five Nights at Freddy's. Or should I say, a brother to it.
What a fun-filled chocolate snack with all new rainbow sprinkles. What a tops!
Lighten and moisturize with no heavy feeling. Dr. Wong's Lightening Face Cream.
Still alive, still burning, but it needs people willing to throw bigger crazier, more ambitious ideas in the pile, or even then trying to seriously revive the scariness that was in the original concept of analog horror. The more creators push the genre forward instead of diluting it, the bigger that fire gets, and the more
Squad Pilar, biktima ng paskil stain. Hindi kinaya ng sabon ko. Pero kaya ng Ariel with Downy!
Undertale. The game where nobody has to you know the game! It's in Smash, for goodness sake! When the RPG came out in 2015, it took the internet by storm. And as you probably know, the fandom created a not-so-good reputation for themselves, policing the way people played and harassing anyone who didn't listen. Undertale-obsessed children running rampant, claiming to be both Sans' wife and girlfriend, killing whoever got in the way. What the hell was that about? They were the minority in the fandom, but man, were they loud. They distracted people from some amazing artwork and wonderful creations the fandom has made. But I think one of the most interesting things to come from the community was their obsession with alternate universes. While extremely popular now, they took it to another level.
New choice, Whack Doll, 3x power with easy patak tap. New choice, Whack Doll, 3x stronger power. Isang patak, 3x stronger sa matinding sebo.
Super linis! Another level. The Onceler from the 2012 Illumination movie, The Lorax, might have pioneered this craze back in 2012, you know, with all the different Oncelers that would be shipped with each other. But Undertale took that and then multiplied it into a wave that couldn't be avoided and would decimate anything in its path. Some of these universes were so popular that they got fandoms completely of their own. Even if you were only interested in the main game, you could not escape their popularity and influence over the fandom. But with so many that were created, how do you even begin to understand them? Well, lucky for you, I was one of those annoying Undertale-obsessed children. This, my friends, is gonna be your intro to Undertale's alternate universes. A really long video of me talking at you about Sans Undertales. A guide, if you will. We'll help you dip your toes in. Courtesy of the PowerPoint I made my friends sit through a couple years ago. I do not have friends anymore. A quick note before starting, this is going to be a light overview of the AUs, mostly focusing on how the fandom treated these characters. That's why you'll probably notice some information being left out or a more basic description of the AUs to be a little less confusing. Like, I'm not just going to be focusing on the canon and reading the Wikipedia. If you would like me to go really in-depth into any of these or any I missed, I would be more than happy to. Finally, this is all made with love and nostalgia. I might poke fun, but it's from a place of love. Also, no harassing anyone. Like, anyone ever. On to the video. So first, we have the rules of the AU. Trademark. Most universes fall under one or more of these categories. Aesthetic change, story change, personality change, barely even Undertale anymore, and Sans. Write that down. Now, the first AUs we're going to talk about are what I like to call the big three. These AUs are the most popular and very important for understanding the rest going forward. Think of these as your foundation, where we build off of. These AUs are Underswap, Underfell, and Swapfell. Not to be confused with Fell Swap. Yeah, it's that kind of video.
You're not getting past me, human.
Oh no. Alright, so Underswap is going to be your most basic AU to get started with, and it's probably the most well-known AU in the Undertale community. Underswap is basically an AU where everyone is swap with each other, with personalities, roles, clothing styles, and sometimes even love interests. Like Sans and Papyrus swap, making Sans the Royal Guard trainee instead of Papyrus, and vice versa. And that goes for every single character. Most of them are pretty obvious. Undyne swaps with Alphys, Toriel with Asgore, Muffet and Grillby, Flowey and Tammy. They're all perfect swaps of each other. Story change, personality change, barely even Undertale anymore, and Sans. Or more of these categories. Aesthetic change, story change, personality change, barely even Undertale anymore, and Sans. Write that down. Now the first AUs were basic AU.
Today, I chose Head and Shoulders. So when others had dandruff, I was dandruff-free. And my gorgeous hair became famous. Oh, eh? Maybe.
With Best Ever Head and Shoulders, my chance. Up to 100% dandruff-free hair. Make every day a Head and Shoulders day.
Bakit napapasarap pag manginasal pork barbecue? Amoy pa lang ng inihaw, mapapalaban ka na! Lasang-lasa ang smoky sweet na timpla, kaya di mapigilan ang bawat juicy lambot kagat. Kaya napapasarap pag manginasal pork barbecue.
So this is like somebody's account got hacked, I guess. Well, you know what? I've been scrolling a lot, and all of this is just from like the past week. All of these videos. Okay, and then we get back Farna. I think this is the original person here with some K-pop Demon Hunters lyrics videos. Maybe they just switched interests. They were like, you know what? Flixie TV Smart Stick really changed my life. I also became an old white man. Let's talk about that.
Hi, my name is Thomas. And today I'll tell you everything you need to know.
Hello, Thomas. I'm not... Who runs this channel, man? Is it Thomas? Is it Stella?
The pros, the cons, and whether it's really worth your money or not.
So this is another deepfake video. All of these videos are going to be deepfake videos, and that's why they're able to churn out approximately 300 of them within a week. And if you're not well versed on this, here's some ways you can tell it's deepfaked. First of all, he is over gesturing with his hands way too much. Like, notice how relaxed his actual body is, but then his hands are just flying up in the air, seemingly at random. Here's a big tell, especially when you got a person like this. I hate to say it, but his double chin, his chin flab is simply not looking right. It is not acting normal. But look, imagine you're watching this on your phone, picture's kind of tiny, maybe you already don't have the best eyesight, and the video resolution itself is pretty poor. It's kind of a blurry, pixely video. If you're not going into this expecting it to be a scam, it would be pretty easy to believe that this is a real person talking to you. And so as you can see, this goes far beyond the robot puppy, but this is the entire strategy that these scams now take advantage of to promote their products. The goal is not just to push this deceptive marketing to as many eyes as possible, like real human eyes, but also to sort of feed it into the now AI algorithmic landscape that the internet is. So it ends up getting picked up in Google AI overviews or the new YouTube video summaries or what have you. And as for the other videos that are featured in this AI overview, looks to be the exact same situation. Harmonica, another channel with 65,000 this time. Again, it seems to be music lyric videos. Oh, as a matter of fact, they're still posting through the storm. Okay, they have joint custody of the account, clearly. They're like, okay, hold on. I finished my lyric video for James Arthur naked. Can I post that really quick? Just, you can keep going with your scam stuff. I just want to get this lyric video out for my subscribers. Wrestling Best. This one has almost 1 million subscribers. A YouTube channel passionately crafted by fans for fans, focused on delivering the best pro wrestling content, such as...
Hey everyone, I'm Anna, and in this video, I share my honest experience using Audileaf for 1 month. I hope it helps you. Important warning, there are many scam sites and fake promotions out there.
All of these videos, they start off with a warning like, be careful, because there are a lot of scams out there, okay? plenty of scammers ready to pretend that they're the real Audi Leaf, but there's only one real Audi Leaf, and I, the very real Anna, am about to tell you about it. So I guess this is now another new element to the scam strategy, where they're building this sort of fake ethos, fake rapport, by giving you such a kind, thoughtful warning about all the scams out there, and thereby assuring you that this one, of course, couldn't be a scam. It's just scammers basically racing to be the best scammer, the most trustworthy scam out of all the other scams. Despite these being across 3 different channels, they all link to the same site, rebrand.ly. Everything just ends in ly these days, or at least y. This one is rebrandly/_Wuffy_, like it's some kind of gamer tag. And we do have actually a reply to this comment saying, don't buy it. It's a yippy little plastic toy that weighs nothing, only squeak barks, blah, blah, blah. Of course, I'm not going to heed your advice. I'm gonna go ahead and click on that link. All right, it has been about 5 minutes, and the page still has not loaded, so that's not good news. It might be time to try this alternative link, which is hotum.art. Never seen a link that looks more trustworthy than hotum.art. We did get redirected to get-wuffy.com, an official site, if you will. I mean, it's got Wuffy in the name, and it even has like a logo. Just try to count all the scam features you see. The top bar, special limited time, 70% off. Now 70% off discount, that's actually awesome, right? Because what you do is you take the full price of the product, calculate 70% of it, and then take that off. Unfortunately, sometimes the scammers kind of get confused about the math. So then they say, get minus 70% discount. Be wary of this button. We don't want to click this because this is going to make us pay more, 70% more. America's #1 rated robot puppy. I have to say, I didn't even think that this was like a competition. I didn't think this was a league that you could enter into. But now we know, it's Wuffy. It's Wuffy. Plus 8,000, positive 8,000 happy customers. They wanted to make sure, because they had the negative 70 discount. They wanted to make sure this one was a positive 8,000, not negative 8,000 happy customers. Don't forget, these things are handmade. It's a robot, handmade robot. Every piece of metal, bang, hammered by hand. The microchip, the processor inside this dog, inside this robot puppy, surgically precise, micro like threading tools, okay? And I love that we're now AI powered behavior is the selling point. Everything is AI. And then here we have some images. These feature some accolades. Toys of the Year winner. Let me just, Toys of the Year. The Real FX Disney Stitch Puppetronic. Not really a robot puppy, it's Stitch, like the Disney character. But sure, close enough to a robot. I mean, it's probably made by the same people. That's probably what they're saying. Wuffy also made the Stitch toy for Disney. Thousands have chosen Wuffy. What is Wuffy? Wuffy, are you okay? What's going on up in the top right there? Is Wuffy this thing, or is Wuffy this thing, which just looks like a plushie? It just looks like a normal stuffed animal. They're just like showing pictures of completely different things, and they're like, yeah, I don't know, they're handmade or something. So like, everyone's different. Everyone you get is unique. Other toys bore children, mass produce, break easily even. Not the Wuffy. Wuffy is 100% handmade. Scrolling down, of course, we got videos now. Video proof of this thing in action. And you'd see it's pretty much moving like a real dog. So I mean, that's pretty awesome. Although I do notice there's like something strange about this video. I don't know if you can see it. It's like, in the bottom right here, there's like this little sparkle. Like, I don't know, what could that be, guys? Is that like, I don't know. This is some throwback. This is some footage I remember. The green glowing USB cable. In one breath, it says that it uses batteries, like disposable batteries, not rechargeable batteries. And then here they've got, just casual USB cable coming out of it, as if it's something you charge. But that's the least of my concerns. They're all like twitching, shaking violently. I don't even know what these videos are. Yeah, that looks like the same real product that's in this picture. Look at us, we're so happy. We have a robot puppy. I'm so happy, Dad. Thank you for the robot puppy. Thank you. Mom, why are you grabbing my braid? Like, what are you doing? Wuffy helps create calm and screen-free moments for your family. It inspires kids to use their imagination and tell stories without devices. I don't know what tell stories means. Are you having conversation with the dog? Oh, look at you, my little Wuffy. I love you so much, buddy.
Bark, bark, I love you as well.
And this one I thought maybe we had moved on from, but no, it is still German engineered. Hans is still up in the lab cooking these things out by hand. Unlike robotic toys, just to be clear, this is not a robotic toy. Wuffy is built on an advanced German technology, okay? You don't even know about the Germans. Das ist einfach eine deutsche Sache. Oh, by the way, how could I be so remiss as to not acknowledge 4 big icons in boxes. Adaptive AI system that adapts to your child and supports your children's emotional growth and social development. Oh, that reminds me of what I was going to say earlier. This is almost targeted towards parents who, you know, don't want to have to play with their kids, and they're just trying to find some new toy that makes them feel less guilty about just like giving their kid an iPad. Like, you know what? I'm gonna say it. Other toys, they may bore children. Let children be bored. Controversial maybe. Let children be bored sometimes. Anyway, here's the simple steps to bring Wuffy to life. Click this button, this never before seen button that is now on his belly. What? And she's holding a leash that's not even attached to anything. Like, you couldn't try less hard. The leash is a suggestion. Why? Okay, then why is this image back in somebody's review? Why? What is this image? What is this image? I'm reverse searching it. We've got a different Wuffy dog site that it's on. This is a UK one. Okay, this is Wuffy Dog Germany. Some French website that we're now at, and somehow they're all using these same pictures though. Okay, they're not calling it Wuffy, they're calling it Froplay. Gotta be a worse name than any of them I've seen so far though. They say Froplay is becoming the Furby of 2025. And here's more of the same I was just talking about. You get a new toy, your child excitement grows, and 5 minutes later, it's already lying on the floor. Your kid's bored, they want iPad time. But of course, you don't want the iPad. You know the iPad's bad. You want something that he can become attached and take care of him? Okay, in what world, real or toy, could a dog take care of a human being, a human child? I don't know, this is just AI nonsense that is, you know, immediately followed by an M dash. You gotta stop, you just have to turn off your brain to try to understand this. Hurry, take advantage of negative 75% discount. Huge price increase. Oh, whoa, hold on. I just hit the absolute badge jackpot. My first ever foreign language badges. I've got like the France certified badge here. I'm France certified, guys. JamLab is France certified. Now here's Wuffy UK edition and German edition. They appear to be pretty much the same site with a few differences. They're missing like the tech journal logos here. They're also missing a few images for some, you know. But my favorite difference has gotta be America. And United Kingdom, by the way, also United Kingdom. #1 rated robot puppy. Like, all of this text was in all caps, and you can tell somebody was like, okay, dude, we gotta go in and we gotta add the UK. I mean, they want to know that it's the #1 in UK after all. Now, as for the German site, they didn't bother including that it's Germany's #1 rated robot puppy. But you know what? Why not? Let's just make the fav icon of the entire site just the German flag. Why not? Wuffy rated as the best interactive robot puppy of 2025, according to topcustomerchoice.review. What is that? Is that a website? It can't be a real one. But there's another badge here. I mean, interactive robot puppy badge award. I mean, that's kind of a rare one. Anyways, here's our expert kindergarten teacher. Expert of robot puppies, of course. And it's once again playing on the whole, my kids spend too long looking at screens. We want kids to be in the real world. That's why we're gonna give them AI, supposedly, they're not even, but AI-powered dogs, plastic toys. Now, it looked like those 3 sites were all connected, the Germany, UK, and regular one. Although, who's to really say? It's pretty much impossible to know what's a copycat and what's not. But I did find this on Google, WuffyRobotDog.com. Literally just features a screenshot of that site that we were just on. It's another AI-generated article, basically, and you gotta love it when the site links to itself. Check this out. Wuffy Robot Dog? Oh, I want one of those. Let me click. Oh, cool. Wuffy Robot Dog. Okay. Let me read here. Oh, what's this? Wuffy Robot Dog? I want one of those. Dude. Why you might be searching for Wuffy Robot Dog. Here are some of the most searched buying intent keywords related to this product. Wuffy Robot Dog official website, Wuffy Robot Dog discount offer, Wuffy Robot Dog, legit or scam? Why is your article on the robot dog listing out, like, here are the top Google Trends keywords, most searched terms? It also helps reduce screen addiction because Wuffy is excited enough. They're not going to want their iPad. They're not going to want YouTube Shorts anymore after they get a look at Wuffy. Is Wuffy Robot Dog worth buying? Honest review. The answer depends on what you need. What are you talking about? You're trying to sell me it. What do you mean depends? Just say yes. Just say yes. Here's how you buy it. This is garbage. This website is garbage. And when you click anywhere, it redirects you to getwuffy.primeshoppers.com. So we're at a whole different page now, where the default package, of course, is 3x Wuffy. They don't want to push their luck too hard. by having it default to the 4X Woofy, but if you're a careful shopper, you will notice that this is the best value. I mean, this is the cheapest, most bang for your buck. Now, of course, I have to see what primeshoppers.com is. Oh, I was saying it wrong this whole time. It's Prime Shoppers. That's my bad. So here's Prime Shoppers. Got everything from muscle toner, $105 muscle toner, to mosquito lamp, actually. Oh, beef tallow. Just beef tallow. And at Prime Shoppers, guys, you always know you're getting the premium experience. Yeah, actually, enough said. Fine, I'll put that on the mural too. The mural is getting covered today. Okay, guys, it's still going. I've gone back to Google to look at more results, and this stuff is everywhere. Any possible way of advertising this scam that you can think of, they've done it. Here's a promotional article that they've... an space, basically, they've taken out in Muddy River News. It's like an actual, like, local news thing. But they have an article by sponsored content. Oh, okay, I gotta stop clicking things. I need to stop clicking things. Take my mouse away from me. Now I'm looking at all their content. They've got best online casinos in Australia, more casino, betting, crypto casinos. Guys, what's going on in Australia? Wow. I don't know what this says about the internet, but it sure says something about the internet. Here's their article, advertorial, if you will, about the Woofy dog. You know, it's just a giant, heaping, slopping pile of AI garbage with an official website linked, pbtvr.org. What is that? What is this? PVBTR blog. Hello world, welcome to WordPress. It's nothing. Oh, and it redirects us to primeshoppers.com. And here's yet another channel on YouTube that's been compromised. Have to say, I'm noticing a pattern here. All of these channels, except the wrestling one, have been translated lyric videos. Like this is Spanish, and yet the scammers come in hot, speaking German. Nicht kaufen? Going in between actual lyric videos and then more of the scam. And there's no way, like, if your account got hacked, surely you don't just not realize that you're posting like 200 videos a week. So now I'm starting to think that the lyric videos themselves are just part of a content farm to boost engagement on the channel, while simultaneously uploading and pushing the scams. Here is 6 videos about a robot bunny this time. She's gonna be like, what up, this product? Some people thought that it was a scam. It's not, it's awesome. My name's Suzanne. Please buy it immediately.
Lunod sa requirements. Mentos muna! Mentos, yes, the fresh.
In Mongil Star Dive, there's a whole world of monsters to capture and turn into monsterlings.
She's gonna be like, what up, this product? Some people thought that it was a scam. It's not, it's awesome. My name's Suzanne. Please buy it immediately.
Hi, my name is Suzanne, and today I'll tell you everything you need to know about the Hopsy robot bunny before you actually buy it. I also have 2 really important alerts, so pay. After numerous development tests, engineers created an interactive toy using technologies such as AI-powered adaptive behavior.
Hans, bring out the particle accelerator. We need it for the robot puppy development. Here's woofyofficial.com. Here's woofy-robot-puppy-buy.square.site. I mean, this has got to be the worst of all. Visit the official website to get your bottle now? Did you forget what scam we're on? Good things. I think by now it's pretty clear this is a never-ending hole. I can never get to the bottom of this mountain of slop. But I think this is a perfect way to end this, actually kind of a sad one. There's this site called Woofy. It's like a small business type of thing where they sell these handmade dog treats. Cute little baggies, cute, like it looks great and fun, and they're called Woofy. They're called Woofy, guys. We're the treat Woofy, not the robot dog Woofy. We've been getting messages from folks trying to track down their robot dog toy order. I feel very bad for these people that their brand name has been stolen. So you know what? If you're watching this, go show some love and some support to Woofy. If you had a dog, go order some Woofy dog treats. Also, they put this email that they say is like the official support for the Woofy robot dog, if that's what you're looking for, which is obviously really funny because if you did get this robot dog, there's about like 12 different sites you might have bought it from. But it did make me notice that this one, getwoofy.com, I hadn't even seen yet. We were on get-woofy.com. There's also just Get Woofy with no hyphen, and it's the same damn website. It's literally identical, except except one thing. The phone number at the bottom is different. So it must actually be different scammers. And if that doesn't summarize this entire video, I don't know what does. So there you go. There's the updated story of the new reborn robot dog. Wuffy is just yet another AI dropshipping scam, like all these other ones, taking over the internet, injecting itself into as many sites, as many platforms as possible. And if it wasn't bad enough to be robbing people of their own money,
booking, and you can even score.
Watch me.
If you want to become a content creator, the best thing that you could do is easily just watch the biggest creators. What creators get the most views? What creators make the most money? Which creators get the most love? But sometimes it's also important to look at the creators who have made the biggest mistakes. Because sometimes you gotta learn from other people's fuck-ups. One of the best examples of this is Kwebbelkop, who easily has had one of the worst downfalls in YouTube history. You guys requested me a lot in the last video to do a video on this guy, and I see why. In such a short span of time, he went up to 15 million subscribers and then just lost most of his audience in one single year. He sold his soul to AI, he flexed his wealth non-stop, and basically treated his audience like a cash grab, and it eventually caught up to him. The rate that he ruined his career is almost kind of impressive, like it has to break some sort of world record. Nowadays, he's lucky if he even hits 100k views on a single video, and now the desperation for his content is showing pretty bad. How did someone mess up the opportunity of a lifetime in just one single year? Let's cut the bullshit and get right into it. Now, YouTube began as a hobby for Jordy at the age of 16 all the way back in 2011, posting simple gameplay videos, and they were as amateur as they can get. This was during the early days of gaming YouTube, where it was still becoming a pretty new genre into the content space. But around the same time, lots of gaming YouTubers were getting some serious views and starting to make real money. The idea of this being a job and a business was becoming very, very popular. Jordy wanted in on this, and he wanted to make this more than just a hobby, so in 2012, he set out to make one video every single day. A pretty ambitious goal for a person who was still in high school, but he showed up, he put in the work, and fulfilled the promise to himself. Post after post after post, there were no results. Until he posted his first ever successful series, which was a compilation of GTA 5 failing moments. These got millions of views, and this was the content that really blew him up. Suddenly, he got his first 100,000 subscribers. He thought that this could be a serious possible direction for him, so he started to network with other YouTubers. When it comes to YouTubers, collabs are one of the biggest and easiest ways to blow up. It's the closest thing that you can get to being a nepo baby in social media. And Kwebbelkop was going to blow up with the help of his friends Jelly and Slogo. Together, these guys made the trio robust and constantly collaborated. Not only did they do gameplay videos, but they did tons of challenges and vlogs together. Many of these would become Kwebbelkop's most popular videos to date. In fact, across all of their channels, all of their collaborations were their most viewed videos. Within the span of a year, he went from 1 million subs to 5 million subs. That means during his prime, he was gaining like at least 8,000 subscribers every single day. And what further helped him blow up was his relationship with Azzyland, an up-and-coming YouTuber who at the time also had 1 million subscribers. Next to collaborations, relationships are also one of the best ways to blow up as well. I mean, not just in content, but also like in general. Musicians and celebrities constantly get a lot more traction in their career when they are dating someone who is also very famous. In 2020, Azzy hit 13 million subscribers while Jordy hit 14 million. By this time, he was unstoppable. He had a diehard fanbase getting millions of views, multiple successful video games, his own company, a hot girlfriend. What else could he possibly need? But it wasn't too long where everything started to go downhill after this. Why? Well, it all makes sense when you look at some of the greedy shit that Kwebbelkop did. Now, Kwebbelkop's downfall didn't start until 2021, but the groundwork for this started in 2019. It was in December when he quietly disappeared from the Robust group. This was completely out of nowhere as he just stopped doing videos with them with no explanation. He was replaced with an up-and-coming YouTuber named Craner, but this didn't slide. People noticed quite immediately. And around the exact same time, Kwebbelkop and Azzylen broke up after 3.5 years together. And the reasoning for both of these wouldn't be revealed until nearly a year later. First, he did explain that the breakup was pretty amicable, and the main reason was just simply the fact that he was not feeling the connection.